Call of Duty has made a decision today that I feel is going to fundamentally change the future of Warzone, and not necessarily for a good reason. I'm talking potentially, in my opinion, the beginning of the end for what is a very unique Battle Royale. Now, for all its flaws and all of its shortcomings, and good God have we spoken about that at length on this channel, Call of Duty is one of the last remaining BR games that actually throws you into a 150 player lobby against 150 real players. But that's about to change, and I think it's about to change permanently, and I think Call of Duty are very much not being honest about their intentions. You might remember at the start of Season 3 and the integration with Verdansk, Call of Duty released BR Casual, and it's a way for you to play Battle Royale with primarily bots and a handful of real players. And honestly, I'm well behind this decision. BR Casual as an additional mode is actually pretty genius. It lets people get back into the game, it lets people play quite casually, and allows them to build back up their confidence before playing against regular players. But this is where things are changing. Call of Duty is getting rid of solos. The solo mode that you know and love with 150 players is being replaced by solos casual for an unvetted amount of time. This is part of the blog post in Season 4 today, and genuinely, I think this is the beginning of the end for not having bots in Battle Royale for Warzone. The only way you will be able to play solos as of Season 4 is to play it with bots, and there will be no other way to enjoy it, no other way to approach it, no other challenge, just simply playing BR solo, casually speaking, with bots, and some real players, but the majority of them won't be. Now, BR Casual is a concept that I've supported. It allows players to go from a very casual environment to playing regular games against real players to potentially even playing ranked in the future. It's effectively a stepladder, a stepping stone system that builds up the confidence of players, allows them to have their fun, and keeps them ultimately playing the game. But I have only ever been in support of this system if it's an addition to what is already available, not a replacement, because this is where the industry is going. Fortnite has bots, PUBG has bots, pretty much any mobile battle royale is entirely riddled with bots, and the only way you can avoid them is by playing the ranked play edition of those games. And this is the first time Call of Duty is essentially saying, hey look, we actually think this is better than playing with real players, and we're going to replace it, and we're not really going to tell you why. I'm going to explain why, because the answers are incredibly obvious and incredibly clear, but they're just not being honest about their intention here. They're saying that this is going to be a test, they're saying this is going to be something that will be monitored and could be changed on a day-to-day basis. But the reality is, this is not going away. And the bigger reality is that this is the beginning of the end, not just for solos, but for duos, and trios, and quads. So why is this happening? Well, there's a very simple answer to that. BR Casual has probably been a raging success, so much so that they've even announced that Resurgence Casual is coming to the game with bots as well, and clearly is having lots of retention at keeping returning players playing the game, because they're playing an edition of the game that's more casual, ultimately for them more fun, but in my view, substantially less rewarding, seeing as you're essentially shooting bots. But in the grand old scheme of things, Call of Duty doesn't care. They don't care that they're bots, they don't care that they're potentially blurring the lines between AI being in the game and not being in the game, and diluting their core experience. The only thing Call of Duty cares about is their bottom line. The only thing they care about is their retention, and the only thing they care about is making money. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. They ultimately are a corporation that exists to make that job occur, but we're talking about the core formula of Warzone vanishing entirely. And guess what? If players are playing the game more frequently with bots and they're staying on the game for longer, chances are they might end up buying more things and more skins. And if Call of Duty can make you play longer, they've got your attention span longer, you might purchase their premium products more likely, you might purchase the skins they have, and hell, they can even gladly make it that all of the bots in the game are wearing the latest and greatest items in the store, so that you might be influenced into purchasing one of those items and possibly even offered a discount in the future. Now, some of you are probably sat there thinking, oh no, they definitely mean this is a test, this isn't definitely going to be a permanent change, you know, Call of Duty will listen to its audience. I don't think they will. And this is exactly the same line as to why skill-based matchmaking is never going to change in Warzone. Call of Duty's one guiding principle, the one thing that they care about more than anything else in this game, is retention. And as per their blog post, when Call of Duty turned off skill-based matchmaking, the vast majority of players stopped playing the game faster. So if Call of Duty can introduce a part of the game or a variant of the game where bots are part of the core experience, and it keeps people playing more frequently for longer, then the reality is that they're going to do that. They're not just going to separate the modes, they're going to release it primarily to the wider audience of this game. And quite frankly, I don't believe them either, because even if Call of Duty announces in a week that they're actually going to change it back and Solos is going to return, this is a statement of intent. It's a real foot of intent in the right direction of what they want to achieve, and it's only a matter of time before bots become the basis of Call of Duty. They might not even tell you that they're bots, they'll probably try to hide them, obfuscate their usernames, and I've seen all these conspiracy theories in the past about there being bots in Warzone, and most of the time it is just people AFK farming XP. But now, there might be a very real reality in the future where they will just say, hey, this is BR Solos, and by the way, we haven't told you 40% of these players aren't real players. It improves their matchmaking times, it will increase their retention, more people will play the game for longer, and if more people play the game for longer, more people are going to buy more things within that game. This is a very serious problem that is not going away. It's something that's going to take the core experience of playing against 150 real players and throw it in the garbage. And the only way you'll be able to do that again in the future is by playing ranked. And Call of Duty's really written themselves into a corner here that's quite impressive. Not only do they now have BR Casual, they're also going to have solo casuals, which you have to play. There's no other way of playing solos. They're also going to have Resurgence Casual, and then on top of that, they're also going to have Resurgence Ranked alongside regular BR Ranked, and the only reason that that exists at all is because they completely forgot that EWC was taking place, and that EWC needed a ranked playlist in order to compete in the tournament. So if you want your Saudi Arabian money, we had to put that playlist live. And that doesn't even include the fact that some people are matchmaking on console only. So we're now talking divisions upon divisions upon divisions upon divisions of Call of Duty splitting its own player base. And granted, I'm sure they have many millions of players, but it's only one reality here. Eventually, when the retention starts to die out for some players, which it will, as a result of bugs, as a result of cheaters, as a result of the game, or generally just feeling stale, they are going to have a problem on their hands, where they're going to have to start removing playlists, and their solution very well might be, hey, we're actually just going to introduce bots to everybody, and we're just not going to tell anyone. This isn't a conspiracy, this isn't a brazen move away from what's to be expected, this is just a fact of life. Call of Duty, Activision, how they operate, their entire guiding principle is retention. And I will give them tons of credit as a development team for all their flaws and all their issues with the anti-cheat, for all their flaws and issues with the game, balancing, bugs, everything in between. The reality is that there are very few games out there that has probably achieved the amount of retention that Call of Duty has achieved with Warzone, and they have my respect for that, especially as somebody whose career this is. But the simple fact of the matter is, today, for me, represents what will be the beginning of the end for Warzone. You won't play 150 real players. It might not be now, it might not be in a couple of weeks, it might not be for a couple of months, but I guarantee you, over the space of the next year or two, bots are going to become a fundamental basis for Call of Duty Warzone, and you won't be able to avoid them. And the only way you will be able to avoid them is by playing ranked. And even if they don't say that that's the case, I promise you, they're going to change the usernames, they're going to scramble the player lists, they're going to change how the social interactions or features of the game work so that you can't friend request a bot by accident, and they're going to make it so that this game is not the same game that you've been playing and enjoying for the last 5 years. And I don't see why Call of Duty is going to do this either. BR Casual and having casual playlists is brilliant. I love that. Give people the option to do so. But we're now talking about a Call of Duty future for Warzone where you can only play casual with bots. The only way to play big map is to actually play duos or quads because trios is locked behind ranked. And then on top of that, you're going to have Resurgence playlists which are also BR Casual. So we're talking about divisions upon divisions upon divisions of splitting the player base that can only work out in a problematic way. And the only way they solve that is by collapsing them in the future and likely integrating the feature sets and saying to all of us that there aren't any bots in the regular version of the game, but there probably will be. And yes, BR Casual as a concept, like I've said, is great. I think it allows people to jump back into the game, and it gives people an accessible entryway of enjoying Warzone. But it doesn't solve the fundamental issues that Warzone has in terms of retention. The anti-cheat being quite literally one of the worst things I've ever seen, and I do have a follow-up video on this that we're going to talk about in the future, because I have some evidence of some things going on that I think is insane, so stay tuned for that and make sure that you're subscribed. But we're talking about just changing the fact that Call of Duty's unique 150-player experience is going away. You know, they're going to get rid of this. It's going to be an inevitability at this point. You know, PUBG has bots. Fortnite has bots. And if you want to play ranked, good luck. They're sweaty as hell. It's the only way you can play without those bots. It's going to change a lot. It really is fundamentally going to change a lot. It's going to change the future of this game, the trajectory of this Battle Royale. And quite frankly, the only saving grace at this point might just be Battlefield 6 and whatever BR that they're cooking up that has recently leaked. Because at this point in time, if I'm being entirely honest with you guys, I have no reason to believe anything that Call of Duty is going to say on this. It's clear that retention is going well, and it's clear that they're going to change some things within their game to get that number as high as they humanly can and sell as much as they humanly can, which is fine. But they're going to do it in a way that's going to sacrifice the core of this game, and they're going to do it in a way that sacrifices how Warzone fundamentally works. And that's not good for the future, that's not good for Call of Duty, it's not good for the community, and it's something that we should all be aware of and be as vocally opposed to as humanly possible. Having solo casual as an option, fantastic. Having it as the default, it just can't run. This is not how the game should be, it's not how the future of this game should be, and I really, really hope everybody votes with their wallet here and says, nah, I'm not buying anything in COD, so long as this is the case. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.